we go. Hey, what's up?
Hello. Welcome to Spirituality Live with
Rhian
and Greg.
Woohoo!
And whomever.
No
we
one.
still don't have a whomever, but we will. We absolutely will.
Someday.
Someday. We will.
Someday
Next
we'll
year.
be a whomever. Next
But
year.
Next year we'll have a whomever. But for today, we didn't feel it was necessary. And we almost canceled today, but we didn't. We are here for all you millions of people watching this wonderful show.
Now,
So,
that said, we didn't cancel, but the reason we almost canceled is we have all of our kids. Greg's 2 kids are here. My 2 kids are here. The fur children are here.
there's
So
children, there's pets.
there's a lot happening. So if you hear or see chaos, please just bear with us. We're assuming that all of you guys are sitting at home hanging out today anyway.
Right,
So
you might be with your children, so
yeah, maybe you can relate to the chaos of living.
But,
And that is why we did not cancel.
but the show must go on.
That's true.
The show must go
That's
on.
true.
But we also felt it was very important to do the show today because we are here, New Year's Eve, on the cusp of a new year and a new decade.
And we were just talking about this, but both Greg and I said neither of us realized this was a new decade happening tonight. We just spaced on that one. I saw this meme that said, like, it was last week when this meme was posted, and that's pertinent because it said next week it will be like a new week, a new month, a new year, and a new decade. And I was like, oh my gosh, crazy town. It's a lot of new things.
Right. So this is 2020. So for me, and I think for a lot of people, this is a big year because, I mean, for me, like, this is the future, like 2020. Like,
It's the future. Welcome to
like,
the future.
so we had an amazing life cycle here, all of us that are here, because we lived through the millennium. I mean, that's crazy.
True.
2000. I'm assuming anyone watching this show was alive in 2000.
Perhaps.
Not necessarily, but most,
Mostly.
But anyway, so we had 2000. We went through that. Then, and we all lived, and all our computers were fine. 2000. Then we lived through the end of the world, 2012.
Oh, I remember
Right?
that. I was in circle for that
Right?
whole thing.
That was the next big thing, was 2012.
12, 21 or 12, 12
Yeah,
or what was
12,
it?
12, 21, 12.
Mhm.
Right. So that was the big thing, the end of the Mayan calendar, and all the energies coming in with that and what it meant and everything.
Mhm.
And that's actually when Awaken was birthed. Our Awaken's very first event we did on 12/22, the day after the end of the world.
Oh my God. The day after the end. What if the world ended and we're all in the afterworld? Greg's like, oh my God.
And then it's spirituality,
What if we
afterlife.
didn't afterlife? What if we didn't make it through?
Anyway, none of it's real anyway. So
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
So we could just end now.
There's no end, no beginning. So anyway, so there was the millennium, there was 2012, and then, at least in my eyes and my perspective, I feel like 2020 was the next big number, like the next big milestone, just because it's such a cool number, 2020, and it just, like, that finally sounds like the future. And everyone was so confused about what to call the teens. Like, we had all these decades. You had the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and then the millennium came, and then it was like, it's the O's, like, and then we got to 2010, and then, it wasn't the teens yet until 2013, but like,
no, now it's 20s.
so now
20s.
it's such a crazy time because it's the 20s again.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The roaring 20s.
Are you gonna wear like a flapper dress and do the Charleston?
We were talking about it.
Yeah, that's good. That's what we should be doing.
We totally wanted to have a 20s party, but we didn't want to put all our friends through that, having them to go out and buy flapper dresses,
true.
and we didn't want to encourage Tommy guns,
That's always a good rule, not to encourage. So
Anyway.
let me see. Look at this. See, my thing says my videos ended.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna do it again.
We're having technical difficulties over there.
Well, just keep talking though.
So-
I told you this computer is like.
So
on
speaking of
my
which,
fridge.
so I'm curious too. So, I thought 2019 was an awesome year. Of 2019, there's a lot of crazy things happening, some weird energy, and this will segue right into what we want to talk about.
Oh, I didn't even know
And
he was here.
there's a visitor here.
Hero, get down. Hero, get down.
Right.
Oh, he
So, this is a great segue. So a lot of what we want to talk about today is letting go of the old, taking a look and reviewing at the last year and the last decade, what that means for you. Rhian's just went out again. This is great. And looking at what's coming and setting, as far as I know, I'm still on, yeah. Looking at what's coming. Oh, yeah. Why wouldn't you be public?
I am. I'm just saying. I'm going to direct everyone there.
Oh, yes. Rhian is having difficulty, so feel free, all of Rhian's followers, to come follow Greg Campese. So anyway, but with 2019, there was a lot of like weird stuff happening, and especially towards the end, our TV died. And now here's the funny thing. This is what I want to put out there. And this is when you review, and especially, you know, being the new year, it's a perfect time to review what's going on in your life the past year, the past couple of years, and set intentions for the future, right? And it's a perfect time to really look at what's happened and not to judge it, to just look at it, feel it, see where the things that were bad or went wrong, see where that led to, and see how much you've accomplished. That's a huge thing for me, because the funny thing is, again, because like I knew 2020 was coming, but it wasn't on my mind that like, hey, this is another whole decade. And one of the things that I like to do when it's a new decade is to look at how much you've accomplished in the last 10 years. Because it's huge.
You know, this
10
is
years,
stressing me out. This
10 years is a huge amount of time. And there's a lot that changes in 10 years.
What am I going to try to do?
Yeah, turn it sideways. No, turn it sideways.
But I don't think it's going to work.
It's not going to stay. So we're going to take the difficulties in here.
Welcome.
So I want to share that. So an example of where something seemingly goes wrong, but can be a positive. I was talking about getting a new TV. That was one of the things that was on my Christmas list. I wanted a new TV and decided not to get one yet to save some money. But the universe had other plans. It decided that I should have a new TV. So it killed our old TV. Our old TV died.
Your old TV wanted no part of the new decade.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Leaving us no choice but to go get a new TV. So we now have a new TV.
Exactly.
On that same note, my Sue wanted to get a van. She's been thinking about it for a while, and was seriously considering it this past year, getting a minivan, you know, for the kids, so we have more room, we can have more of their friends, and when we go on vacation, there's some more space and all that kind of stuff. And same thing, the main reason was money, because her car's paid off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why take on a car payment, especially of a van, you know, if you can save up a little bit and all that kind of stuff. But the universe had other plans.
It was like,
the universe is telling us money is not a reason to not do things.
Money is not a reason to not do things. Well, I mean, for some things, it is a reason.
In the bigger spiritual realm, you shouldn't use money as an excuse not to do things, because we can all manifest millions of dollars right on the spot, right? All the spiritual people know that we can manifest all the money we want. But everything's intention, right? Everything's intention. So when there's things around fear, and especially fear of not having enough and fear of money, it's not a great mindset to be in. You know? Scarcity
mentality. I call that a scarcity mentality.
Yeah. You
know, the one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about like looking through the past, Greg said you should review your past 10 years, etc. And I briefly chimed in, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. I feel really overwhelmed.
Oh, so, but wait, before you get into all that, who knows what that's going to look like. But wait, the reason I mentioned the whole minivan thing is, so there was a car accident with Sue. It was her passenger side. Like, she was fine. Everything was fine except the car. And because it's an older car, there's a good chance it's totaled, and she'll have to get a new vehicle. So it looks like she may be getting her minivan for 2020 anyway. So sometimes bad things happen because it's for the greater good. And it's also, and the funny thing is, not that I want to put any kind of negative spin on anything, but sometimes and I like the quote bad things, excuse me, tail. Sometimes the bad things happen because it's really in alignment with where we're heading, and a lot of times it's in alignment with the intentions that we're setting. And sometimes it's a way to force us to hold our own intentions, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. Do you see that Henry's texting my phone?
So
I hear what you're saying, and I think that it's a good way to get out of our own way, where it's like sometimes you've made a decision about something and it turns out you made the wrong decision. Do you know what I mean? But you were doing it out of that scarcity mentality, which is what I was trying to sort of talk about. Oh my God, he's just blowing me out. Do you want me to spray him with the Florida water?
He's down.
Yeah. He's down. So when you were talking to me about reviewing the past 10 years, I was like, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to review my past 10 years. I think there's a lot of that going on around. Hey, Brittany. And hi, Kim. Henry, stop texting me. So I think that when you are reflecting upon your past, if that's something that's like overwhelming to you, I personally want to like liberate you from having to do that. I don't think there's any reason to bring a stressful vibe into your space for the new year, especially if we're all like, I mean, later I'm going to go live and talk about ritual baths and things like that, and how to release in a specific kind of way any energy that's sort of attached to you.
There you go.
For some people, if it causes you anxiety, or if you've had a lot of trauma in your past 10 years, or if you've had a lot of trauma recently, or even this year, I don't need you to dredge that up and get immersed in it again. You can just release it. Do you know what I mean? Or you can just focus forward. Focus forward. It's fine.
And that's what happens sometimes on the show. I disagree.
Yeah, I know he disagrees, but there's no sense in it.
But it's not. But yeah, at the end of the day, you're gonna, if you really want to move forward in peace and joy, you have to face anything you're holding on to. But it's all about the timing. It really is all about the timing. And when you try to force things that aren't the right time, then sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, that's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Which is what she's saying, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Just because it's New Year's Eve or New Year's Day doesn't mean you absolutely have to deal with all of your trauma, right? I mean,
however, if you're purposefully avoiding looking at something or bringing something up because you don't want to feel the feelings attached to it, it might be the perfect time. Especially being, and again, and this is, you can do this anytime, to sit and meditate and think about things that you're holding on to or that are still bothering you and find ways to release them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different ways, and that's a lot of the kind of stuff that we like to get into, is ways to release things and ways to clear things and clear energy and look at things and all that kind of stuff. This is just always the perfect time because of the energy around the new year and a new decade. It really is a good time to really sit with it and look at it and feel it and allow it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my feelings.
What is your favorite releasing ritual?
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
Maybe someone can show me how.
I like to do, because I have a witchcraft or a pagan bias, I'm really into the ritual baths. And like I said, I'm going to go live later and talk about specifics with a ritual bath, but you can definitely sit in your tub and have certain herbs or certain salts, even just your intention. And what I want you to do is put everything into the water that you're releasing, and then you stay seated in that bathtub while the water drains the whole time. You're going to be cold. Mm-hmm. And you're going to watch the water go down the drain, because as it does, it's taking with it everything that you're releasing. I also am big in like sound and, smoke or whatever, cleansing, sage, etc. But what you got to understand,
what is it, Palo Santo?
Palo Santo sage. You can cleanse with bundles of anything. One of my favorite bundles has mostly roses in it, and lavender and things like that. But what I want you to know is that that's not going to do everything for you. Obviously, you can just sage and then your problems are gone. But I'm also big on setting your parameters. So my whole house is surrounded with protective energy and certain magical things. So sometimes some people will come to my door but don't actually want to come in. That's because my thresholds are heavily protected. And that's always interesting to witness. So
nice. And we're going to get into that. We're going to do a whole show around fun witchcraft stuff and spells.
Did you ever,
and
when you were young and growing up, did you ever bang pots at the new year, go outside and
bang
pots? Okay, yeah. That's a really old practice. The root of that is to scare away the bad energy.
Scare away the evil spirits.
Scare away the evil spirits, the ghosts, the bad energy. Ringing bells or banging pots does the same thing, and that's why some people like fireworks and stuff too, because it's the loud noises scare away all the bad vibes. Sound is really a powerful clearing agent.
Cool. Yeah, it's funny that there's a lot of kind of ancient rituals that have kind of worked our way into our modern lives where we don't even realize it,
Uh-huh.
And the funny thing is, so I'm Italian, all Italian, and my dad, when we would get new houses, he kept up with his little old Italian ritual of he had a broom and he had salt. And I feel like I might be missing something too, but And we even did it with my brother when he got his new office. He came in with the salt and the broom.
Oh, right.
Now
That's funny.
right, and it's because his mother, way back from old school Italy, did all these types of rituals. It was,
Oh my
it was
gosh.
part of that. I don't even know what you call it. He always called it voodoo, which is the funny thing. Like when I started getting into all my spiritual stuff, he was like, "What's all this voodoo stuff?"
He's not that
But then he would
wrong.
come in and with his salt and salt the place.
Yeah, that's like a super witchy thing, or just an ancient thing. That's the thing. Witchy things are ancient, just ancient practices, to be really honest with you. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something else. Anyone watching, if you have specific rituals that you like to do on the new year, let us know. Leave me a comment, and I will chat with you about it, and Greg will chat with you about it. I do understand what Greg's trying to say about making a list and like trying to get in touch. Yeah, get in touch with yourself. I think it's a good thing to do. But what I'd love for people to do is to make a list of all that they have accomplished. I'd like your list to be empowering to you. To make you feel uplifted and inspired as you move forward, and to say, like, here's all the great things I have done, and here's all the ways that I've done well, here's all the accomplishments I've had, even if it's 10 years or just this past year.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big thing. That's because I was out with my brother, and so it hit us like, hey, like New Year's is almost here. It's a whole new decade. Like, holy crap. And so we were just talking about like, okay, a whole decade, because it's such a long period of time. What have we accomplished, and what do we want to accomplish in the next 10 years? I mean, even just that's mind-boggling, trying to think of the next 10 years of your life. But thinking about the past 10 years was huge, because I mean, how often do we sit down and do that? And I mean, how often do you sit down and even think of the last year? Usually it's around New Year's, because it's just that time.
Or like your birthday.
Or your birthday, like what do I accomplish with my last birthday? Like there's those little milestones. But I mean, it's not that often where you sit down and you're like, okay, let me look at the last 5 years of my life, or the last 10 years of my life. That's huge, And for me, I mean, the last 10 years, I started Awaken. I got a center. I built the Awaken Expos. We have the website online. There's a ton of stuff. I am in my relationship with 2 children, so I got a family, and we got a house.
Wow.
Like, there's a ton that has happened over the last 10 years.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. We have a show.
Oh my God.
And it's funny too. So I mean, if you really stop and look at what's happened over the past 10 years, and I want this to be something in your thoughts also, because depending on where you are with your job and family and all that kind of stuff, this past 10 years might be kind of status quo. Like there's not necessarily a lot of change, and I don't want you to feel like you haven't done much in the last 10 years, because it shows up in different ways. So it's very easy to say like, hey, we built a business or started a new business, or you have a new relationship, or you have started a family. Those are easy milestones to recognize. Make sure that you're also recognizing the things that you don't normally give you credit for. Like, how have you impacted your own life? Have you changed eating habits or diet? I also went vegetarian. That was another thing that I did.
Oh, nice.
So what have you changed in your life? What have you done to help change in other people's lives? And look at ways that you've probably affected your workplace, your life, your neighborhood, your family, your friends. How have you affected the world around you? And I think you'd be surprised at how many ways we affect the world around us in a positive way every day, let alone in a month or a year or 10 years.
I think that's beautifully said. Nice job. I think that too, it's good to ask yourself, my whole thing with my coaching practice is like empowerment and self-empowerment, and like getting in touch with yourself. So my question would always be, if you're like in comparisons, there's that quote, comparison's the thief of joy. If you're in comparisons and you're like, oh, I don't know if I did XYZ enough with my life or my time or whatever, what I'd love for you to do is to say, like, how have I been more myself over this past year or decade? What are the things I've done that are more in alignment with who my truest self is? Because to me, being your truest self is always fundamentally the most important thing you could ever do. And doing whatever is in alignment with that truest self is the most important thing you can do. For example, if I ended up getting divorced in this past year, which is a true story, that might not seem to someone externally like that's like, oh, way to go, right? but it turns out that was more in alignment with my truth. And so that's a win for me. I don't have any ill will towards him or anything, and he doesn't have any ill will towards me. But the thing is, it's just like sometimes the things that look like they're not necessarily wins can be, and I want us to be able to see that for ourselves and to like really like steep in that.
Right. And that's the thing too, and that's why with looking at things that have happened lately over the past 10 years that might be painful to you or seem like it was a hardship, it's important to look at it from an empowering perspective of what that change forced in your life and what either is coming of it or could come of it.
Right. And
that's the thing is, I mean, again, like, this is Spirituality Live. Like for us, it's all about going with the flow and as much as you can. I mean, sometimes it's a little easier or harder, but it's all about just trusting and having faith that the bigger picture, everything's okay. It's all going to turn out. There is something going on that's bigger than us, that's helping to guide us and align us and support us.
I agree with that. This is also why I don't like to do resolutions. I was like, are we going to talk about resolutions? He's like, I don't know. Do you want to talk about resolutions? So yes, I do. I don't like to do resolutions, Tyler, because I honestly feel like resolutions are external to us, and anything can happen with that. So if your resolution is to like get married or to stay married and get divorced, like that might seem like, oh, I did a bad job. But if that was more in alignment with your integrity, then you didn't actually do a bad job, right? So the reason I don't like resolutions is because I don't think that we can measure our truest self with external monikers. I like to do words. So I channel words of the year every New Year's. And I like to do words because a word allows you to be guided.
Could you expand on that?
On the words?
We're always speaking words. We're speaking words.
What I mean is, instead of choosing a resolution, I like to encourage people, my clients or anybody, to choose a word that guides them throughout their year. And so this word embodies the energy of what they're trying to bring into their lives more than like a tangible thing. Because when we're trying to manifest something, what we really should do is focus on the energy we're calling forth to us, not the tangible item itself. So we might think we want a new car, but really we might want like ease of transportation, and that could look a number of ways.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, let's focus on the energy. What energy do you want your world to be? What do you want things to feel like to you? And then what word will align with that?
Yeah.
And how do you have it? How do you have it that way?
And I like to use the word intention, which is very similar too, because for me it's about so moving forward. Well, let's.
Deep breaths, Greg. Deep breaths.
I wanted to have a little bit of structure, but that never works.
There's no such thing as structure.
So, new decade, looking back, we discussed looking at your accomplishments. If there's things that you're holding on to that are still painful to you, it's a great time to clear them. There's so many different ways. It's a great time to make lists. List the accomplishments that you've made. List the things that have happened over the past 10 years. And then I still think it's great to make a list, because I'm all about, the manifestation process. I think it's nice to physically write things down.
I think lists are good too. All I was trying to say was be careful where your vibe goes with your list. If you start to get mean to yourself, you can stop the list. Right.
And again, it's also about what works for you. You really have to find what works for you. You don't have to listen to anything that we say, but we're just here to advise and to give some of what we believe in and share some other stuff we picked up along the way. So I really think it's about intention, setting your intention moving forward. And it's what Rhian is also saying about the difference between just setting intentions and the difference between writing, making New Year's resolutions. Because a lot of times a resolution is something specific, and then you're upset with yourself if you don't follow it. Like, oh, I'm going to get to the gym every day.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. So that's the kind of stuff that you don't necessarily want to be that specific. I mean, it's fine, but just don't beat yourself up if you don't hold yourself to it. But what's a nicer way to go about it is, set the intention, I want to be healthier this year, and not get too tied up in the specifics about what that looks like. So it could be working out more, it could be changing your diet, it could be every day, it could be just starting with once a week, it's however you want it to do. But it's about holding that intention, So, and you go into the words. So the intention is, you want to be healthier this year. So maybe your word is health, that you're picking, or however.
Or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
There's intentions, there's words that guide you, and then there are goals. Goals are measurable and tangible experiences. Intentions are all about the energy that you put into something, and it can take any form that it needs to take. So it's okay to have goals as long as you're aware that they're goals, and goals can shift as you get new information, but they're definitely measurable external experiences, whereas an intention is something that is felt within, and it's all about your energy that you're bringing to things. So
yes, everything is always about energy. It's always about the energy.
For those of you joining me on my phone, I'm on my phone, and that's why it looks like this. It's like this teeny little Rhian and Greg box because my computer stopped working. So yeah, that's fun. But I would love to know what anybody else does. Hi, Charlotte. If anybody out there does things for, oh, and I wanted to talk about the crystals. If anybody out there does things for the new year, if anybody watching has a, what's the word I'm looking for, tradition or a ritual that you do share to bring in the new year.
Yeah, share how you start your new year. You know, do you do a meditation? Do you create a list? You know, how do you reflect and look forward?
Good, or like a visualization. Last year, I talked all about changing your altar out. If you keep a home altar, it's nice to change it at the new year. But I had a very hardcore pagan person disagree with me on my thread, as is apt to happen over on my side of the world. And he said, this is not a religious holiday. There's nothing to it. It means nothing. Now, to me, I don't agree with that. I think that our secular practices, the things that we do in our culture every year, they acquire cumulative energy. Collective energy is a real thing. You know, when a group meditates, it's a very powerful experience. So when a group does something all at once, like the whole country or the whole world celebrates something, it becomes significant.
Right.
And if there's significance to anything for you, then it, quote, counts. So I would just say allow yourself to have things count, even if they, you know, someone says they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know, with a lot of pagan rituals, they probably put more into like the solstices, right? The changing of the seasons.
Yeah, so in
so
there's real holidays, and then there's
and a lot of it's aligned more with the earth. You know, so I mean, you can't deny that there's a change of the season, all that stuff. But even with that, like the day, right? Like who picked the day?
I know,
right?
I don't know.
Like even that, like people had to come together and just decide this is the day that we're having the solstice, and we're going to have it on this date every year.
Well, the solstice is based on the sun and the moon. Yeah, that's a science thing. Science picked the solstice.
So certain rituals are based on like physical things, but there's a lot of the holidays like Christmas, which we just had. The date of Christmas, which
arbitrary,
really. Completely arbitrary, also related to a lot of pagan stuff, but there's a lot of things that we come together to celebrate where it's just the collective deciding, okay, this is going to be when we celebrate this thing. So it's for you what works for you, and obviously because we have all these different religions, not everybody's celebrating the same thing at the same time. So you're also welcome to create your own rituals and put energy into your own dates that are important to you.
Right.
You know,
if you do choose a word or an energy that you want to call forth into your new year, I like to create or find like things that support that. I have my words, I get them put on a bracelet usually so that they're with me, and then I wear them and I see them throughout the year. Sometimes in the past somebody gifted me my word written on a piece of paper, hung it up in a frame. Immerse yourself in the things that remind you of it. You can carry crystals that are in alignment with the energy you're trying to call forth, little bags of crystals, keep them on your person or on your bedside or something like that. And that's always a good thing to do as well. Your friend says that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you want to read it?
Jennifer said that she made a list of the hardships that she faced and the positives that came from them, the positive lessons that came from them. We're laughing because there's a cat in the way of our other screen over here. And then she burned them, and that's a great way. So like Rhian was talking about how you can take your cleansing bath.
No.
You can take your cleansing bath and watch it drain, and use that as a way to purge everything. Another great way to release and purge things is burning. So you write it down, and again, the writing down is a great way because you're putting things into physical energy and physicality, since we're in a physical world. So writing something down and then burning it is always a great way to release it as well.
I love burning things. The reason
We're just gonna take that.
I love fire. Right. I love burning things because what you're doing is you're releasing it. You're sending it out into the atmosphere and you're turning it from the tangible into the energy, and it's like therefore like extra creating it, and that's always a really cool thing to do. So it's definitely really powerful. Also, fun excuse for a fire pit. Fire pit outside, or if you have a fireplace, that's good too.
Yeah.
I was
So
just told not to burn pine in a fireplace. Did you know about this?
feel like that sounds familiar, but I don't remember why.
We started burning the Christmas tree, which sounds bad, but it was beautiful. And then I got a whole bunch of people in my DMs and my things being like, yeah, sap attaches itself to the chimney or something.
Huh.
Whatever.
Oh, so you need to burn it outside.
I guess I need to burn it up. Bundle up and sit at the fire pit.
Right. But anyway, but so whether you're watching this now or later, feel free in the comments to add your rituals to this, to share how you celebrate the new year, how you move on, how you handle things from the past, how you set your intentions for the future. Feel free to share those. And
don't forget to be nice to yourself. I would love for your energy to be positive. I think it's more important that you get into a nice, pleasant state with yourself, where you're feeling good about yourself and uplifted, is whatever way that you need to do that. So if music helps get you there, or if some kind of art or dancing or hanging out with friends or not hanging out with friends,
right.
Going out or staying in, whichever the thing is that actually connects to you and makes you feel better, I want you to try to do those things, because I think it's so much more significant, the energy you're bringing into it and starting with than anything else. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And there's certainly not a reason to have a ritual around anything, but
well, that's true.
But if you don't, feel free to start one. I like the dancing part, so feel free to write down some stuff you're releasing, burn it, dance around the fire, naked, whatever whatever you need to do.
Greg's a witch.
Right. Whatever you need to do that makes you feel good. And do not worry about what other people think about it or say about it. And if it means you need to do it alone and keep it to yourself and not share it, I mean, that's a great way to do things, because it's sometimes it's hard for us to hold our intentions and what we know is true for us when we put it out there and other people start criticizing it. So it starts putting doubt into us, right. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this, maybe I should feel weird about this.
Exactly.
So with the new year and the new decade, my message here that I want to put out is
preach it.
Make sure that you're moving forward, doing what is right for you, what makes you happy. And I'll give you a little quote from my Spiritual Ninja column.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
You didn't know about, lots of people don't know about Spiritual Ninja.
Spiritual Ninja?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you do like a little ninja move and then you say something?
No, because Spiritual Ninja, we're not karate jumping.
Sorry.
Spiritual Ninjas say,
okay,
do not allow the world to change you. Instead, change the world.
That's nice. There you go.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward, 2020, this is the future. This is a new decade. Move forward, getting into your alignment, into your soul. Decide what is calling to you, what you want to put out there into the world for the next year and the next decade, and what you want to do to create positive change. And do not allow the world to affect you. Do not allow the world to tell you who you are, what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, how you should be saying it. None of that. It's all, it's everyone else's opinion. And there are plenty of times where other people's opinions and guidance help, but it always comes down to really feeling into it and deciding, does this piece of advice or guidance feel right for me? And if it doesn't, then don't follow it. And if it does, then do it. All right. But always check in with yourself with what you want to do moving forward, what you want to create. And another little thing I want to put in is for intentions that you're setting, things you want to accomplish, take baby steps too. Don't feel, because again, it's about not getting overwhelmed. Don't feel like, there's this thing I've been wanting to do. I have to make sure I get it done. I want to do it this year. I got to finish something by the end of the month or whatever. Set the intention, but also know that, sometimes timetables shift and things change, but take the baby steps and acknowledge that you're taking those steps towards a goal, and don't always focus on how long it's taking to get there, because a lot of times the universe has a little bit of a different timing than we do.
That's for sure. Now the most important question is, are you going to Facebook Live your naked later this year?
I didn't say it was going to be this evening. It'll be a surprise. You'll just have to keep an eye on my channel and find out.
Will it be on Facebook Live?
Probably not on Facebook Live because my mom watches stuff I put on here. Not that she hasn't, ever seen me naked, just not recently.
Moms are pros in that area. So.
But what I do want to do, which I might be throwing out there in the next couple of days, is I want to do a guided meditation for the new year around a lot of what we're talking about, releasing the old and setting intentions for the new. And we do meditations at the center, but I wanted to do a guided meditation on Facebook Live and put it out there for everybody to listen to. So that'll be coming.
Woo! Stay posted. Keep posted. Subscribe and save. That's a different thing. All right, are we feeling complete? Does anyone have anything they wanted to share? I feel like we have given a really cool a smorgasbord,
yes.
Is that the word?
Yes.
Of New Year's things that we can do. And people who are following me, I'm going to get into detail later about a ritual bath and what that looks like and how you can do some kind of witchy things to call in your new year. Maybe some candle magic and stuff like that. So you can stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
On my little world over here.
And in our Facebook Live show, we do this twice a month.
Every other week.
Twice a month?
Is it first and third? Oh, it's twice a month and every other week are different things.
Yes.
Aha.
Yes. And that's why, because sometimes there's an extra Tuesday in a month, and then it like totally throws you off. So, so we're doing it twice a month, the first and third Tuesdays of the month at 11 a.m. Live, and then we'll also repost it, and it'll be on the Awaken YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to, youtube.com/awakenche. And do you have a YouTube channel? I feel like I asked you that the last time.
Coming in the new year, I have.
Set your intention, set your goals, YouTube channel.
Moonstone Witchery is launching its YouTube channel in the next week or so.
Sounds cool. Nice.
I'm excited.
So thanks for joining. Have an awesome, happy new year. Here's to 2020. The future is here. 2020.
My watch was like, you are sitting too long. Get up and get moving.
We have to end because
end
Rhian's watch said she needs to get off her ass and get moving.
Thanks, Mesia. All right, guys.
So thank you all. Happy New Year.
Yay.
See you again soon.